Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. Let's see who's here on this happy Wednesday. The week is going by so quickly because of the Monday having taken off. Is making for a fast week. Anita, good morning. Good to see you. I'm going to switch my glasses already. It's getting to be that crazy. Prescription time. Anita, good to see you. It is still blazing hot here too. That little fireball. I know it's been really hot, and I had to do a lot of dyeing last night. And it was, even though there was like a crazy thunderstorm that came blasting through, nothing really happened. And then it didn't cool things off at all. And then I woke up again at like 5 something and started dyeing. I did something like 40, between 40 and 50 colors between last night and this morning. But I'm all caught up with my dyeing, so that's a good feeling. But who it ratcheted the heat in the kitchen and the house by like it was a relief to go outside into the insane heat after coming out of that kitchen. Just blazing hot. Linda, good morning. Penny, good morning. I wonder if we're all, at least on the East Coast and up into Canada, having a heat thing in anticipation of the hurricane that's moving this way. Is that how it works? Hot, 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 and something blasting up through? I don't know. I don't know how it works, but I guess the meteorologists do. I hope they do anyway. Penny, good to see you. Waiting, Elsa. Okay, that's the hurricane? See, I'm so out of touch right now. I've been so hardcore dying. I'm guessing the hurricane's name is Elsa. That seems like such a benign and sweet, frozen kind of a name for hurricane. It seems like a bit of an oxymoron, right? Isn't that one of the main characters in Frozen? But beautiful. It is beautiful, Martha. Great to see you. Pouring rain and humid. Summer is here early this year. Good Lord, Joy, good to see you. I was working on your dyeing too because the wool came. Lots of rain here from Elsa. Okay. I'm catching on now. This is where I'm acquiring my news this morning. Kaz, good morning. Only 60 degrees in Wisconsin. That sounds wonderful. Sue's hot and humid in Kansas. Oh, Diane is on. Diane is on. Diane is, we've been talking about velvet, and I get my velvet from Diane at the Velvet Hook. So I'm going to start off with that today. So if you have any questions about hooking with velvet, Diane is on today. So make sure that you ask her. She also made a coupon for our group. So Diane, you can tell about that, and I think you posted it into the Facebook group, which is Rug Cooking and Punch Needle Club, a coupon for yesterday and today for just our group if you want to try out Velvet, which I highly recommend, and more on that in just a second. Jennifer, good to see you, and Jill, good to see you. Hot, hot, hot in Virginia. Oh no, you're punching your new pillow though. That is exciting. Kirsten, happy Tuesday. Cynthia, happy Tuesday. South Texas. Janice, good morning. And Robin, good morning. It is coffee time. Linda B. Velvet Lady's here. That's right. Diane, you did a good job getting on. I think I was saying the other day, I think the key to having a struggle getting on these live chats is that if one has an email address that is not a Google recognized address, like maybe an AOL or a Hotmail or something like that, um, I don't think it automatically logs you in, and then it is a bit of a struggle. For those of you that are struggling and watching and would love to comment, I think that's 90% of the time the problem, and is that it's not recognizing you. Google is the big brother of all time, and I think you need something that's linked to them to be able to be on making comments. Crazy though that sounds. Yes, please thumbs up. Thumbs up for our great coffee time videos almost every day. April, good morning. Catherine, good morning. Carol P, good morning. And Doreen, good morning. It is Wednesday. It is. It's okay. It is Wednesday. So I have been working on my Kate, good to see you. Good morning. I have been working on my velvet, and I'm so happy with the way it's turning out. I actually started another piece last night. I should have grabbed that to show you that too. I can spring up. Donna, good to see you. Donna and Alberta, good to see you. So I am still working on this. Let me reach back here with my claw. I have not gotten that stuff yet you recommended. I swear I'm going to get it as soon as I leave here. I ran a bunch of errands in anticipation of that storm. Was able to downloading. Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, all of this technology stuff is amazing to me. Diane says I was able to by downloading BY, like bypass maybe, to the YouTube app. Oh, maybe that makes a difference too, right? Yeah. I have that on my phone too. I ought to know that. So I was working away on this again, and there's still a lot of parts that I haven't done, including the main figure in the center. I'm definitely looking for some recommendations and ideas for color because I had her, so I got the background in. I haven't done the sort of decoration on the inner border, and then I'm gonna be hooking the outer border in like a flat wool to really complement it. But the rest of this is all velvet. I've got this multicolored background, and I showed this yesterday. I was working on the bird. Let me bring it a little bit closer. And I'm trying to get my lady in there. She's going to be positioned up there. I'm looking for a color for her dress. But last night, in between all the dyeing, I put in these autumn trees. I think it's better if I balance it on my gut because you can see it better. So I put in these trees. They kind of skirt that lilac type earth kind of horizon thing that I did, like a little hill. So I put in all these sort of autumny mauve, different shades of orange and gold. But I absolutely, yeah, I am so in love with the velvet look too. I mean, it's crazy how luminescent and how pretty it is. My favorite thing about it again is how forgiving it is, how durable it is, how easy it is to pull through. It's not as fiddly as wool. It's much easier to deal with, and the stretch is really nice. But now I've taken out her orange dress because I thought too much orange. So now I'm looking for a color idea. I'm trying to keep green out of it, but I might have to bring green into it. So if you have any great ideas, let me know. Later rose for the dress, possibly. That is one of the thoughts that ran through was like more of a pink, because I thought I've got the sort of cranberry in the border, the raspberry, and I've got the autumn colors. I've got the cool colors in the background and on the hill, and the bird is blue. So I feel like it should be, I want it to be a zingy color. I was even thinking about like a real crazy kind of a fuchsia or something like that. Um, I'm gonna have to go through my colors again, but yeah, I think I pulled out the orange because it was a different orange. I bought so much velvet from Diane because it's all so irresistible. But I pulled out the orange because it was just like suddenly there was just too much orange, and there's so many tones of orange too, which I really love. But I am enjoying this immensely. I have to say, I'm not just saying it because Diane is on. I've been saying to Diane, I am enjoying this immensely. I love hooking, and I don't have a ton of time to do it lately with the business and fulfilling orders and all that stuff. But this is the first time in ages, that I've really, really loved just sitting and hooking. And it's gone so fast. It's remarkable. So I'm really looking forward to finishing that. I'm just going to reach over and grab the one I just started. Because yesterday I was doing a bit of an experiment. I said to Diane, let me try punching the velvet and see how that goes. So this is going to be, let me see what you all said. Yep. How do you steam the velvet rugs? That might be more of a Diane question. I wasn't planning on doing any finishing, but if I will defer to Diane if she says that it's good to do something to it, I will certainly listen because all of Diane's advice about cutting, like putting it face down, putting the nap of it face down and not just willy-nilly, rotary cutting up the front and letting the lint fly. She said it's much more sort of wise to put the nap down, velvet on velvet kind of thing, pile on pile, and then cut. And it makes a lot less of a mess, and that is absolutely true. So I will also defer to Diane with anything to do with finishing it because my immediate thought was not to. Not out of laziness. I so love this thing. So this will appear soon on the website because I am almost finished with it. I'm just messing with the colors. But this is, I think, already available as a pattern. I forget what I even called it. But I'll make it known when I'm finished with this. And I am going to be putting out a couple of patterns within the week that are velvet, that are kits. So I think this is going to be one of them. So let me follow through this thought. I do like the lighter rose idea. Diane, that's a great idea. Oh, and alternately, Martha says darker cranberry with bright gold frills. That's not a bad idea either. I'm thinking that also made me think dark, dark, dark cranberry, or even dark, 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 like nightshade, dark purple. Possibly, but not toward blue because I've got too much blue. Interesting. Now that gives me three things to think about. Yeah, I'm gonna have to just hold some stuff up. Maybe a yellow. Ooh, maybe a yellow, maybe like a vanilla yellow. Oh, that could be nice too. Huh. You know, it would give some relief too having a lighter color, wouldn't it? Oh, Liz, hello. Barb Adams passed away on the 4th of July, so well known in the fiber arts. We have one less stitching sister. Oh, no. Maybe better known in the quilting world, but in the fiber. Okay. Um, Liz, thank you for posting that. That is sad news. Barb Adams passed away on the 4th of July. I had not heard that, so that is sad news. And a lot of people do cross over to the quilting world from the rug making world. So if you know that name and if you have a personal connection, very sad news. But thank you for alerting because I had not heard that. And Diane says, I steam with medium heat, pattern down with cloth or towel if needed. Okay, so do you put, Diane, when you steam, you don't use like a velvet board or anything with pins or anything? You just put it face down and it doesn't crush the velvet the way that, I'm just thinking about my costume days and how we always had to iron velvet on a velvet board, which was like a wooden board with millions of pins sticking up, with the pile face down. But maybe it's not that fiddly because this is stretch velvet, so this would be different than what I'm thinking of. Dave, good to see you. Great to see you. So, all right. So, so we were saying yesterday regarding velvet, I was going back and forth with Diane, and she said, have you tried punching it? So I took out all my punches. I'm looking for feedback here. I took out all my punches, and what happened, Barbara? Good to see you. I tried. My hope was my remote hope was that there was a chance because I love the Oxford punches, fine and regular are the two, and then I have some other brands of punches that have sort of more middle medium sizes of the needle, right, of the shaft part. And my first hope was can I get it through the fine needle? Because I love a fine needle. Doing a lot of hard punching work I guess I am a bit too lazy for that. A bit more labor intensive than I like. But the velvet did not fit into any of my fine needles or sort of medium needles. So then I went to my Oxford large needles and I tried the 10 and it worked okay with the 10. And then I tried the 8 regular because I was hoping for a higher pile. I'm not usually a high pile person by any means, but in this case, I really wanted to see those loops of velvet. I really wanted to see the height and the shine on the top of each one. But for whatever reason, I had more of a struggle with the 8 than the 10 punch. But what I found with punching was that, and if you have any further information, we are brainstorming here. I would love to know because I would love to punch. It goes so, as you know, fast. And the parts that came out good were very good. But my problem was that the velvet strips, whether I cut them on the thinner side or the wider side, I cut them widest at about an 8, like, with the rotary cutter. My problem was that once the velvet got into the punch needle, that little round channel in the center of the punch needle, firstly it was hard to put in. It was easy to thread it through the hole in the punch needle, but then to get it in that channel, I kept using a butter knife which I always have handy, as you can imagine. I'm constantly eating. I used the edge of it to get it into the channel. And once it got in the channel, I had it upside down because punch needle is reversed. So I was like punching and thinking, this must be great. And then I flipped it over and I realized that the velvet kept flipping over. Like it was turning and twisting inside the punch needle. And it was very hard to know when it had done it because it wasn't super clear. And then when I flipped it over, I saw early on in my strip, quite a few loops had punched backwards. So I asked Diane about it, and she said that someone else she knows has had a lot of success combining strips of velvet with the strips of taffeta and using the taffeta almost like a channel that the velvet coasts in on. So the velvet doesn't have the opportunity to do like a somersault inside the punch needle or a backflip. So I thought, interesting, I'm definitely going to try that. I'm not completely done with experimenting with the punch and with the velvet. I am a ding dong, there's like no question about it, and I always struggle with punch more than hooking. So to be continued, but if you have done it successfully and you've done better than I have, which wouldn't be too difficult, I would love to hear about your method because I'm sure that it must be possible to punch velvet, and I'm sure there must be some very obvious and logical way to stop the velvet from flipping over inside the needle. So if you know, let us know. So excited. Oh, thank you, Catherine. I'm so excited that you're here. Okay, so Diane says if you're using heat with the velvet, if you're steaming the velvet, be careful about burning or melting. Um, no, the backing protects. I see. Yep. So that, I mean, that is great information. I am the worst. I am the naughtiest with blocking things that should not be blocked. So again, Diane says be careful. Of course, it can burn and melt. It's a stretch, so it has something obviously synthetic in the content. So you want to be careful about that. But it's so wonderful to work with the velvet. I started with this project, swears by using. So Diane says another customer swears by using a Craftsman needle. Does anybody have a Craftsman needle? Does anybody use a Craftsman? I've never, I'm so ashamed to say it, I don't think I've heard of a Craftsman needle. So, and I didn't even Google it yesterday, Diane. I got that crazy in the kitchen. I didn't even Google it. I had about 20 errands to run. Teddy wanted to go out and check out some video game stuff that just came out. We were so afraid. You know, it's like we're always in like this crazy mode, like, you know, the Beatles have all risen from, you know, the dead, and they're performing a concert and there's only a finite amount of tickets, and we've got to get them, got to get them, got to. And we have this mindset all the time when something new comes out. We've got to drive all over Timbuktu to search it down because it's, you know, we're going to lose it, and that's going to be it. We're all going to shrivel up and die. But I was doing a bit of that last night, and then I got dying, and I forgot to look at the Craftsman needle. Oh, Kaz, you too. Tell us something about it, Kaz. I'm assuming it's a punch needle, a straight punch needle, not like a, it can't be like a miniature punch. Is it like a wooden handled needle? Is it a plastic handled needle? Is there anything? Um, okay, haven't used it yet. Interesting. I'm going to have to Google it. I'm assuming it looks like a traditional, you know, regular sized Oxford style punch needle, that kind of thing. Anyway, I was experimenting with punching, and I took out this called Poirot, like Agatha Christie's Poirot, because it's a real 30s design flower pot. So this is one of the patterns that I sell, and I took out this stuff. Diane, I'm supposed to be using it for the Penelope kit, which I am, but I might need to get more of your mixed greens. And, you know, I pulled out the punching because too many of my loops were upside down. But you know, I was supposed to do this for 2 minutes, and I ended up doing it for like 20 minutes. I fooled with a punch for a while, and then I couldn't stop hooking these leaves because they were coming out so good. And I left spots in the center to do more color changes and everything. But it's just once you take the velvet out and you start cutting it up and you start hooking it, and it hooks this fast, it is very hard to stop. It is a stop me before I kill again kind of a thing. Very hard to stop. But Diane, let me know what you think too. I was thinking about kitting this vase out because I thought with all of the velvets that Diane does, the velvet hook, all of the velvets that she dyes that are multi, they go so nice, you know, with leaves, with flowers. I'm seeing a possible background that's a bit muted, maybe a nice like vanilla cream colored background, and then lots of flowers, just crazy popping colors. Oh, Kaz, is it a metal one? Interesting. Yep, Cass says she's going to take a photo of that Craftsman needle and post it on the Facebook page. I'm going to be curious to see that. Is it made by Craftsman, like Home Depot Craftsman? Is it that Craftsman? I'm so confused. But anyway, Diane, let me know what you think about this. I was thinking about doing an abstract this week and doing something like this flower pot this week. Dave says, velvet can be tricky. It has a mind of its own. However, I've hooked with cotton velvet. It has 3-cut, also rayon velvet, no issues. Yep, I would agree with that. I've also hooked with cotton velvet or velveteen, and you know it is no give, right? It's super stiff. It has a lot of body. It has a lot of integrity, and it gives a great effect. It's very solid. This is so springy and stretchy, the stretch velvet, um, and the colors are just so crazy. The way that the colors change are just so crazy. So I'm going to put a couple of these kits out, and we'll see how it goes. And again, Diane has put a coupon up for us. She put it up yesterday, so it's good for yesterday, and today. So jump on that if you can, because you know Diane is selling the strips. Diane, are they 6 by 60? I keep saying that, and I haven't checked. They're giant, long strips, and what I've been doing is folding them into thirds, nap down, and cutting them with the rotary cutter. Now the right thing to do is to cut them with a quilt ruler and get the same strip size every time. But I do the wrong thing because I have to be me, and I just cut it by eye. That's just what I'm doing these days. So not every strip is exactly alike, but it comes out exactly the way that I like it. So it's just, it's working great for me. You have to find your own techniques, right? You have to find your own way of working. And for me, I'm not a huge rules person, but you could be as precise with cutting the velvet as with anything else. And using that rotary cutter is fantastic, particularly for people who are beginners and have not invested in a crazy cutter at this point. And why should you, if it's working using your scissors and using a rotary cutter? Why should you invest in a crazy cutter? There's no reason. If you don't mind sitting for a while and cutting your strips, you cut them as you go, cut them, every once in a while. That works as good as anything. And to be honest, unless you are, working at a folk art museum and you are scrutinizing, finished hooked rugs with the intensity of a I don't know, crow, with eyes that are like pixelated, like the lens of the Hubble telescope, then you're never going to know that some strips are wider than others, or it's not quite parallel or even. You're just not going to know. So anyway, I am loving it. So thank you, Diane, so much for giving us this discount, giving everybody the opportunity to try the velvet at a discount, because it is 10% off is a lot, because it's already very economical. 6 by 30, perfect for $6 and 10% off. And then you do the cassolettes, right? They're called cassolettes or cassolettes that are like the multi that come in sets. Those appear from time to time too, and those are already sort of color coded, because Diane will give you one multicolor and then a bunch of matching ones. So if you feel like you're not a great color planner, you just say to yourself, the colors are already done for me. All I need to do is find a design that I like, and I'm just going to hook right into it. But again, I'm going to put out a couple of kits in the next couple days. Certainly a flower thing, maybe like this. And if you want to start experimenting with it, we can start working on that. But I think from this point on, I will be putting out kits that include velvet on a very regular basis, because I really, there's seasons for everything, right? But at this moment, I prefer hooking with velvet more than I prefer hooking with wool or yarn, which is basically everything else. So variety is great, but I'm really enjoying this right now, and I think you will love it too. I really do. So let's look at the book we were meant to look at yesterday. Now, this is a great book, but let's listen to the whole thing before you get on there and order. Anne, I know you're searching eBay as soon as I hold the book up. That's why I have to say that, because it's worth talking about the content of the book. I love all the books that I review. Some are good for something, some are good for other things. This book was put out in, what did I say yesterday? Refresh my memory, 2001. So 2001, it's a fairly new book. It's a British book. It's a British press. Sandra Hardy, Handcrafted Rugs. This is a fantastic book. But this is going to be one of those books that is going to be great for someone who is approaching rug making as a beginner, who doesn't have a real starting point or a lot of experience hooking. There is going to be one project for each style of rug in this book, and many styles of rugs, as you're about to find out. So what I would say about this book is, if you are in a place where you would like to learn a little bit about every kind of rug making that you could ever do, then this is a great book. If you're looking for patterns because you just like hooking and punching, it's probably not the right book for you. It is a great inspiration book because it's very, very pretty, but this book tells you a little bit about a lot of things. So let's look into it. Oh, hey, Mom. Oh, Wimbledon's on. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that. Oh, dear. All right. So it is a real eye candy book, I have to say. This is hooked over here, this one, and this one's woven. So one of the things about this book is that in terms of buying it and being interested, we're going to talk about content and what's great in this book, which is a lot. But in terms of content, a person who's interested in, for example, weaving isn't necessarily also interested in hooking. And a person who's interested in making a knitted rug isn't necessarily interested in making a latch rug. So the wide sort of scope of variety in the kinds of rugs that are represented here, the how-to is excellent. How to make all these kinds of rugs is excellent. But again, it's very, very broad. So it's more like an encyclopedic kind of breakdown of all the different kinds of rugs through history that you might make. But she makes a lot of great points. And again, looking at a British book as opposed to we usually look at American books because rug hooking is a North American craft, certainly, but rug making is not, right? Where just hooking is. Rug making goes way, way back. So she's got a lot of really huge overarching thoughts, and she puts a lot of things together in a very sensible interesting, intelligent way. So reading this book was a lot of fun. She talks about in the introduction how handcrafted rugs have come such a long way from their tribal beginnings as simple pieces of cloth that were woven into like tree branches to what they are now, which is really beautiful, fine, fine, fine wall art. So she talks a little bit about the history of rug making, and it's a British perspective again, just like Friday night, our episode for cocktail night. It different perspective is always interesting. It reminds me of that expression, a change is as good as a rest. When you're reading something from someone with a completely different perspective, it backs you up a little bit and makes you think a little bit broader, right? A little bit more broad-minded, not so fine and fiddly, how to, much broader ideas in this book. She talks about the different kinds of rug making and what has been popular through the years. She talks about how, particularly again in Britain, during the First World War, between the two World Wars, during the Second World War, we were obviously hugely affected by the World Wars, but they were too. They were having fighting like on their own territory. It was way more invasive and intrusive, and it was a huge, huge part of daily life and worries. But she talks about how, particularly during those times, that it was very appealing for people to make rugs of all sorts because you needed very little equipment and you needed very little specialist knowledge to do it. And it sort of fell in with all of the great themes of those times, like making do, mending and making do, using it up, right? Instead of throwing it up, using it up, patching it up, all of those millions of slogans they had that had to do with not wasting anything, right? So doing scrap crafts and thrift crafts like rug making were hugely popular at that time in Britain, not just hooked rugs, but all kinds of rugs. So she talks about how people got involved, in braiding, knitting, hooking, and prodding, particularly those. And then she says there was a ready supply of fabric remnants and yarns from textile and carpet factories, including carpet yarn ends or what are called thrums from mills. So this word thrums comes up a lot, and I'm sure you probably have picked up on it, and you probably already know what it means. But thrum is a nautical word that goes way back. Sailors using small little bits of thread, like thick, thick, thick yarn, up and down the mast where the sail would be to create kind of almost like a pom-pom layer of yarns, thin little yarns that would sort of protect from the constant banging against the wooden mast, right? Like a little cushion of little threads that were called thrums, little yarns that were called thrums. And for that reason, a lot of rug hooking groups are called thrummers, like the Little Rhodey Thrummers in Rhode Island. Using thrums is one of the early sort of evolutions in rug hooking and rug making, using those little bits at the end of something, scrap craft, thrifty craft, right, to start making a rug. And they are called thrums. And so thrumming is something that we hear often in British books, but a lot less often in American books and Canadian books. So she talks a bit about thrums and using thrums from mills, leftover scraps of yarn, for making scrap rugs. She talks about using lots of things, novelty rugs, because you know how the British are so into the novelty rugs. When we've covered British rag rugs, which we have several times on Coffee Time, they are much more experimental with their materials than we are in the US. I'm going to say it, and I did say it. They're way more experimental. Even when we think of Dion Fitzpatrick in Canada, using very nubby, highly textured yarns, very sort of uneven pile to the finished rug, lots sticking up, lots of novelty. We look at that and we go, holy mackerel, that is so different. It's so lovable. It's so fine. But it's very different than what a lot of people are used to. Well, the British have always hooked this way. They've always done rug making this way. They've always been huge advocates of novelty materials. So novelty rugs were also featured during these periods, the interwar period. People used woven strips of old inner tires, right? And you see this now. You see people who've made welcome mats, right? Machine made usually, using old tires and rubber from bicycles and God knows what, as welcome mats. And you open one of these fancy catalogs that comes to your house still, and they're in there and they cost a fortune. And people were doing that years ago in Britain because it was thrifty and they weren't throwing anything out. She talks about crocheted rugs that are knitted from discarded stockings, Grenfell style, right? And felt rugs that were similar to the earlier penny rugs. And we'll talk about those tomorrow when we get there. But she talks about using woolen scraps, things from the millinery trade, because of course tailoring and millinery remain huge sort of branches of clothing and textile in England. I mean, you still find tailors and dressmakers, not as often as I think one used to, but certainly still more often than you would in the U.S. So finding bits and bobs and scraps from places like that, millinery is fading out. But you can imagine around the Second World War, everybody wore a hat always. There would be scraps from that too, and you could use those flat scraps, highly felted wool scraps, not for hooking, but for making all kinds of penny rugs, any kinds of applique rugs. So I'm gonna pause here. I'm gonna do one more thought, and then I'll pause after the introduction because while this book is very diverse, it does have some very solid ideas that really make you think about possibilities that maybe you haven't thought of before. But she really will, at many points in this book, it's not a huge book, return to the ideas. It's about 150 pages. Return to the ideas of using non-traditional materials. And I bring this up a lot because it's a worthwhile thing to think about. Only of a fraction of the rugs that people make these days are on the floor. More of them are on the walls by far. And because of this, you can use anything you want to hook. Anything that pulls through your backing, you can use. So you're not thinking about durability, you're thinking about the look that you want. Or you're thinking about recycling. It's whatever you're thinking about, there's going to be a lot of options. And it's books like this, it's the British written books and British published books that are so much better at bringing to light, well, why don't you do this? Or why don't you do a combo of this, this, and this? So we're going to do more of that tomorrow. But I'm going to conclude this episode by saying, she writes, throughout the 20th century, traditional rugs like Persian rugs and Chinese designs remained popular. Others, though, followed quite closely the design movements of the day. This is a fantastic point. For example, Art Nouveau, Art Deco, a Bauhaus, wartime utility movement, that's more of a British specific look, right through the 1960s pop culture and Scandinavian style. More recently, major exhibitions focusing on individuals or specific design movements have created a renewed interest in rugs, together with the flood of adaptations and reinterpretations of traditional styles. So what she's saying at the end of that introduction, I think, is a very, very strong academic point. She's making the point that while so many rug patterns out there, and when you go on the internet, you really see it and feel it. It's overwhelming how many people are making rug patterns. When you think about it, she's putting it in a nutshell, and she's saying, put aside the Persian rugs and Oriental rugs, put aside those kinds of designs. Those have always been there. Those remain strong and constant. There is a huge market for those kinds of designs, and there always will be. They are like the blue jeans of the rug world, right? Everybody likes a Persian or an Oriental design. Whether you're going to hook one and put it on the floor is another thing because they're massive endeavors. But those are always there. But she's saying, if you think about it, otherwise, other than those big themes, rug making has followed fashion. And it has. We have done episodes on Art Nouveau. We've done episodes on Art Deco. We've done a little bit with pop art influence. All of the things, just like fashion with clothing or home decor. How can there even be fashion in home decor? But there is, HGTV exists. There are fashions in everything, and she's making a very solid point that there's fashions in rugs too. Whatever the prevailing style is, art style of that time, rug making has picked up on it and has represented that style, whether it be sort of sunbonnet Sues in the 1920s, right? Silhouettes with the big sunbonnets on, or the real Art Deco poppy type flowers, the round flower with a round center, very over stylized. Whatever has been generally popular, in life, in magazines, it has made its way to rug making. And I think that's a strong and interesting point in and of itself. Somebody could write an entire book just following the chronology of art and decoration from the 19th century into the right through the 20th century, pull out all of the major motifs and find examples of rugs that have mimicked those motifs. So I just think that's a really interesting point. That is something that this book is good for, is making interesting points like that. So tomorrow, let's pick up the episode and look at all of the kinds. There's probably 15 or more kinds of rug techniques that she shows us, different ways of making handmade rugs. One of them is hooked. All of them are other things. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. Just a brief overview of this book and the way she puts forward very simple patterns, one pattern for each type of rug making. And see if it's a book that might be interesting to you. But I'll show you a lot more of inside the covers tomorrow. Diane, thank you again for being here with us today. Thank you for your fabulous discount. I'm gonna back it up and let other people shop because I've been a velvet pig for a long time, and I'm not done being a velvet pig. But I will be a velvet hibernating pig for at least the day while other people get a chance to get in there and do some shopping. Kaz says, if you have Amy Oxford new book, you can see Craftsman Hook. Oh, I do have it on page 134. My Happy Hooker. Okay, yep. I think I even have it here. I'll check that out. Amy Oxford was so nice this week. I sent her a picture of a rug that I found on one of the online pages. You might have been following this thread in the buy and sell group. But I found somebody was starting a new rug, a beginner, and I saw the corner of it, and I thought, gasp. I thought, I'm only seeing a corner of it, but I'm in love with this rug. And I did a little research, and I found that it was a red clover rug, designed by Amy Oxford before she sold red clover. So, and then took on all the McAdoo patterns. So I wrote to her and I said, is this your pattern? And she wrote right back and said, she said it was, but I sold red clover, so it's not my pattern anymore. So then I posted something, and you probably saw it in the buy and sell group, and I said, does anybody have this pattern? I just felt it was calling to my heart, and I needed it. And I never hook other people's patterns these days because of busyness and because I need to hook my own as examples to sell and make money. But I thought, I'm hooking this. And she said, it's just not mine anymore, and I don't have any. And then I posted in the buy and sell group, and sure enough, what happened, what happened. People were being very nice and going, oh, if it's not available, somebody wrote, you should maybe just make a copy of it. And then it starts, copyright, blah, it was like, drag the guillotine out, build a time machine, travel back to the French Revolution, drag a guillotine out into the street, and let's execute someone publicly. It just went on and on and on. And so in the meantime, and I thought, honestly, seriously, like, can we just interact in a better way? Once you put it out there, you just say to somebody, well, that would be, copyright infringement. Somebody does own it, so that's like really breaking the rules. But it's just the way that it's done anonymously and so cuttingly on these forums that really, really gets me. But in the meantime, Amy wrote and she said, I'm so touched that you want to do this so much. And she knows I've done reviews of her book, so we have a good relationship, she and I. I'm very, very happy for that. So she said, she got permission from the person who bought Red Clover Rugs to do one more for me because she had one. So I'm buying that one, thank goodness. And thank goodness mostly that I was able to take the post down. Which I would have done anyway because it had gone too far at that point. And I thought, I hope this didn't ruin somebody's weekend, this kind of nutty, kind of crazy talk, who needs it? But anyway, I have Amy Oxford's books, and I love Amy Oxford. I just love her. I think she's a great person, great writer. She's done in such a tremendous amount for rug hooking and punch, as has Diane, the velvet master. So we've been very lucky to have Diane on today. Diane, come on anytime and talk about velvet, and I will be right there with you singing the praises of the velvet. This is unbelievable over my shoulder. It looks rich right now, but you can't imagine how rich it actually looks. It's glowing. It's just a dream thing. So thank you so much for being on. Thank you for the discount. I will return tomorrow and we will look at some more ideas for handcrafted rugs, all kinds of rugs you can make, not just hooking and punch. I will see you then. In the meantime, have a great day. Don't forget, Hook and Book Club is this Sunday night. I have it posted, pinned to the top of the Facebook group, the Dayevna Monahan book, New Girl in Little Cove. That is coming up this Sunday. So make sure you don't need to sign up for it. Just make sure you have the Zoom information. And if you don't, send me a message at ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com if you're not on Facebook, and I'll forward you the Zoom information so you can log on and talk to the author or at least watch while other people do, whatever your comfort zone is. So I will see you tomorrow. Have a great day.